Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I guess that's just what happens when you get old," and then shrugging it off like it's some kind of unchangeable truth? Maybe it was after your knees ached just walking to the kitchen, or maybe it was when someone dismissed you in a conversation, like your opinion no longer carried weight. Or maybe it was just a quiet moment, alone in your chair, when you felt like the world was moving on without you. If any of that feels familiar, you're not alone. But here's something I want you to know, and I want you to truly believe it. Getting older doesn't mean fading away. It doesn't mean giving up your joy, your dignity, or your right to live fully and freely. It means being more intentional, more protective of your energy, and more courageous in saying no to the things that quietly steal your health and happiness. That's what we're going to talk about today. This message is for you if you're over 70, or even if you're in your 60s and beginning to feel the shift. Because there is a shift, isn't there? Time speeds up. Your body isn't quite as quick to bounce back. And more than ever, you start to realize that every day counts. But here's the good news. You have more power than you think, more control than you realize. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't adding more to your life. It's knowing what to walk away from. So today we're going to talk about three things, three seemingly small choices that make a huge difference, not just in how long you live, but in how deeply you live. Let's start with one that might surprise you, because it's something so many of us say without even thinking about it. I can't do that anymore. I'm too old for this. It's too late now. Have you heard yourself say things like that? I have. And I've heard it from people I love. Good people. Smart people. People with so much to give. But the moment those words leave your mouth, something inside you tightens, like a door quietly closing. The truth is, your body listens when you talk like that. Your brain listens. Your soul listens. And over time, those words become beliefs, and those beliefs become walls. Let me tell you about Eleanor. She's a retired librarian from Michigan, 78 years old and as sharp as ever. For years, she told herself, she was too old to learn new things. She wouldn't touch a smartphone. She refused to try online grocery orders even during the pandemic. "I've lived this long without technology," she used to say. "I'll die without it too." But then something happened. Her granddaughter, Hannah, who lived 2 states away, invited her to a virtual painting class, something they could do together on weekends. "You just log in, Grandma, and we paint together on Zoom," Hannah said. Eleanor almost said no. She was just about to say those old words, "I can't do that," when she paused, and instead she said, "You'll have to show me how." That tiny shift cracked the door open. And you know what? She loved it. Now every Saturday, Eleanor sets up her little paint station in the corner of her living room, logs into Zoom, and paints with her granddaughter. She even bought a little phone stand so she could stream the class hands-free. What changed her life wasn't art supplies or a new phone. It was a few different words. "I'll try," instead of "I can't." Words matter more than we think. They shape the way we age. They shape the way we feel when we wake up each morning. So instead of saying, "I'm too old for that," try saying, "I'm just in time." Instead of saying, "That's behind me," try saying, "What's next?" It doesn't mean pretending like you're 30 again. It means refusing to be limited by fear or habit. It means staying open, curious, alive. You don't have to climb mountains or run marathons. You just have to stay willing to grow, to try, and to speak life into your own story. Because your story's not over, not even close. Now let's talk about something that hits a little closer to the body. You've probably spent a big part of your life caring for others. Maybe you raised a family, helped friends move, cooked meals, lifted groceries, stood on your feet for hours during holidays. You've done your part, and then some. But here's the hard truth. Many people, especially women, keep pushing their bodies long after they should have started protecting them. Not because they want to, but because they feel guilty saying no. You know what I'm talking about. That moment when your back aches, but you still carry the heavy box because you don't want to bother your son. Or when your knees hurt, but you keep standing in the kitchen for 3 hours to prepare that one last family dinner. Or when someone offers you food you know your stomach can't handle, but you eat it anyway, because turning it down might seem rude. Let me tell you about Frank. He's 81, a retired mailman from Georgia. Every Sunday, his daughter hosts a big family barbecue. It's a lovely tradition, and Frank loves seeing his grandkids. But every time, he insisted on standing by the grill for hours, flipping burgers and hot dogs, because that's what Grandpa does. What he didn't say out loud was that his hips had started hurting months ago, that the heat made him dizzy, that he hadn't really felt up to it in over a year. One Sunday, he collapsed, right there in the backyard. Not a stroke, thank God, but severe dehydration and exhaustion. The doctor said he needed to stop overexerting himself. And more than that, he needed to stop ignoring his body. The hardest part for Frank wasn't the physical recovery. It was telling his family the truth, that he couldn't keep doing it all. But you know what? His daughter cried when he told her, not because she was disappointed, but because she felt guilty. She had no idea he was in pain, and from then on, the whole family started chipping in. Frank still comes every Sunday, but now he sits in the shade, plays cards with the kids, and lets someone else handle the grill. There's no shame in setting limits. In fact, it's a sign of wisdom. Your body is not a machine. It's your home, and it deserves your care, your attention, and your respect. People who truly love you will understand when you say, "I can't lift that anymore," or "I need to sit down now." And the ones who don't? Well, maybe they were never listening in the first place. Saying no doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Every time you say no to something that harms your body, you're saying yes to more days of strength, more mornings without pain, more moments where you feel like you again. You've already spent a lifetime serving others. Now it's time to serve your own well-being, to protect the body that has carried you through decades, to stop pushing through the pain for appearances or politeness. You don't have to justify your limits. You just have to honor them. You see, the problem isn't always what you do with your hands or your back. Sometimes it's where you take your heart. And after 70, your heart deserves peace more than ever. There's something we don't talk about enough. How certain places, certain rooms, even certain people can quietly drain the life right out of us. Not because they're loud or dangerous, but because they make you feel small, diminished, like a ghost in your own story. It might be a family member's house where you're treated like an afterthought, or a group of old friends where the only thing anyone talks about anymore is bad news, bad health, and worse memories. Or maybe it's a church group or senior center you've attended for years. But every time you walk out, you feel lonelier than when you walked in. You've been there, haven't you? I want to tell you about someone I met not long ago. Her name is Gloria. She's 83, lives in North Carolina, and for over a decade she went to a Tuesday night ladies group at her local community hall. They called it the Silver Circle, but week after week it felt more like the gray cloud. Every meeting followed the same rhythm. Someone would complain about their daughter-in-law. Someone else would criticize the way the grandkids are raised these days. Then the health complaints would roll in. "My back is killing me." My doctor doesn't listen. I think I'm getting dementia." Gloria sat there, nodding politely, smiling now and then. But deep down, she felt worse with every meeting. It wasn't always like that. In the early years, the group had a lot of laughter, recipe swaps, and holiday planning. But somewhere along the way, the light went out, and Gloria stayed, out of habit, out of loyalty, maybe even guilt, until one night she came home, sat down, and said out loud to herself, "I don't feel like me anymore." That's the moment she realized she'd been shrinking. So the next week, she didn't go. She picked up a brochure she'd been holding onto for months. It was for a poetry circle at the local library. "All ages welcome," it said. And that was enough to scare her a little. But she went. Heart pounding, palms sweating. But she went. When she walked in, a young man in his 30s greeted her and said, "Welcome, we're so glad you're here." Not, "We're surprised to see someone your age." Not, "Are you looking for the craft group down the hall?" Just, "Welcome." That night, she read one of her own poems, the first she'd written in over 50 years. Her hands trembled, but her voice found its way through. And when she finished, people clapped. Not because they felt sorry for her, but because they were moved. Now every Tuesday night, Gloria reads, listens, writes, and laughs. She still gets invited to the Silver Circle, but she never goes back. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave the room. And let me be clear, it doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't have to burn bridges or send angry letters. You just have to listen to your spirit. If something or someone leaves you feeling smaller, sadder, or more invisible, then it's okay to let it go. Even if you've been showing up for years. Even if people expect you to stay, your energy is gold now. It's not unlimited. And you shouldn't spend it in places that chip away at your joy. Think about the last place you went regularly. Did you leave feeling lighter or heavier? Did you feel seen or overlooked? Did your spirit rise or sink? These are the questions we have to ask. Not just once, but often. Because your environment doesn't just shape your mood, it shapes your health. Studies have shown that older adults who engage in uplifting, affirming social spaces recover faster from illness, experience fewer depressive episodes, and even maintain sharper memories. That's not magic. That's biology responding to belonging. You were never meant to fade away quietly just because the calendar turned another page. You were meant to be lit up from the inside, by connection, by laughter, by the feeling of being truly present in a place that values you. And if you haven't felt that in a while, I want you to know, it's not too late. You're not too late. Whether you're 71 or 91, you deserve to be where your spirit can stretch, where your laughter echoes, and where your stories are heard with respect, not impatience. There's no expiration date on joy, and there's no age limit on changing course. Now maybe you're sitting there thinking, that sounds lovely, but I don't know where to go. I don't know who would want me. Let me tell you, there is someone, somewhere, who is praying for a friend like you. Someone who would be thrilled to learn from your life, your stories, your warmth. But they won't find you if you keep hiding in places that dim your light. You have to step out, even just a little. Start with a place that interests you, not just a senior event, but something that sparks a little curiosity. A book club, a birdwatching group, a gardening class, an art workshop, even a walking group that meets at the mall. Try one thing, one place, and give yourself permission to walk away from anything that doesn't feel right, and walk toward what does, and listen. This is not about always being happy or pretending everything's perfect. It's about protecting your emotional well-being with the same seriousness you'd protect your physical health, because the two are connected. Loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a health risk. So is resentment. So is staying too long in a place that makes you feel unwelcome. But the opposite is also true. When you laugh with others, your immune system gets stronger. When you feel appreciated, your blood pressure actually improves. When you feel connected, you sleep better. When your spirit feels safe and celebrated, your whole body breathes a little easier. So today, I want to gently challenge you to take inventory of your spaces, your social circles, your weekly routines, and ask yourself, are these places helping me grow or holding me back? If you find one that feels right, stay. Water it. Let it bloom. But if you find one that feels toxic, draining, or cold, thank it for what it once was and move on. You are not too old to change your scenery. You are not too old to change your story. And you are definitely not too old to protect your peace. Because here's the truth, my friend. Every single day you wake up is a new page in the story of your life. And you get to decide how that page is written. Not your age, not your past, not other people's expectations. Just you. So speak kindly to yourself. Listen to your body. Choose spaces that lift you up. You've earned that. You've earned the right to live these years on your terms. You've spent a lifetime giving. To your family, your work, your community. Now it's your turn to receive, to rest, to rediscover what makes you feel alive. And sometimes all it takes is one change. One small yes. One powerful no. You don't have to do everything at once. You just have to do one thing differently. And that can be enough to shift the whole direction of your story. Because this part of life, it's not the ending. It's the masterpiece. Sometimes, it's not until you say something out loud, or stop going somewhere you've always gone, that you realize how heavy it's been. How long you've been carrying words, habits, or routines that no longer fit the person you are now. But here's the beautiful truth. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to protect your peace. You're allowed to outgrow places, people, and even old versions of yourself. You've earned that right. You've walked through storms. You've built families, held hands at hospital beds, waited up late for someone to come home, paid the bills when it was hard, showed up when no one else did. You've lived. And because of that, you deserve more than just time. You deserve peace. You deserve joy. You deserve to spend your years surrounded by people and places that see you, value you, and remind you that life still has more to give. Now, I know change isn't easy, especially when you've lived a certain way for so long. But the smallest shifts often lead to the biggest transformations. Imagine how different your days could feel if you started replacing limiting words with open ones. Instead of, I can't, maybe it's, I'll try. Instead of, I'm too old, maybe it's, I'm ready now. That one shift could unlock new hobbies, friendships, or moments you thought had passed you by. Imagine how your body would thank you if you stopped pushing through pain just to avoid disappointing someone. If you rested when you needed to. If you asked for help without guilt. If you let your needs matter as much as everyone else's. Because they do. You do. And imagine how much lighter your heart would feel if you walked away from one place. Just one. That's been stealing your joy. Maybe it's a group that's turned sour. Maybe it's a routine that leaves you drained. Maybe it's a relationship where you've been invisible for too long. You don't have to explain your choice to anyone. You just have to choose you. These aren't selfish decisions. They are sacred ones. They are the decisions that protect your health, your spirit, your joy, and they are long overdue. Let me tell you about someone I met through this channel. Her name is Bernice, 74, from Arizona. She left a comment that stopped me in my tracks. She said, "I spent 15 years believing that I had no right to say no. No right to rest. No right to feel lonely, even when I was surrounded by people. But your video made me realize I've been living like a guest in my own life." Now Bernice takes herself out for coffee every Thursday. She writes poetry. She told her daughter she can't babysit all day, every day anymore. And instead, she comes over once a week with fresh energy and excitement. And her granddaughter now says Thursday is her favorite day. What changed? Bernice stopped waiting for someone else to give her permission to live. And she gave that permission to herself. You can do that too. You can change your language. You can honor your body. You can walk away from spaces that hurt and walk into places that heal. And yes, it takes courage. But let me ask you this. If not now, when? You are not here to simply exist until the end. You are here to live, to laugh, to learn something new, to sit in the sun and feel it warm your skin, not just your bones, to talk with people who really listen, to wake up and feel, "I'm glad I'm here today." That's not a fantasy. That can be your real, everyday life. But it starts with one choice: to stop giving away your time, your energy, and your worth to things that no longer serve you. So let me ask you gently, but directly. Which one of these resonated with you the most? Was it the words you've been saying to yourself? Was it the way you've ignored your body's signals? Or was it a place or a person that you've kept going back to, even though your heart's been quietly pleading with you to stop? Whatever it is, I want you to know, it's not too late. This moment right now, listening to my voice, could be the moment your life pivots. And here's the thing I love about this community. We learn from each other. Every time one of you shares a story in the comments, every time you say, "This is what I changed and this is what happened," you light the way for someone else. So I'm asking you to share. In the comments, tell us, what's one thing you're going to stop doing or saying or going to? For the sake of your health and happiness? Maybe someone out there needs to hear your story to start writing their own. And while you're there, don't forget to hit the like button. It's a small gesture, but it helps this message reach more people. People just like you who might be feeling stuck, unseen, or unsure of where to go next. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel, Strong Elderly Life. This is a space for encouragement, practical wisdom, and real talk about living better, not just longer. We're building a community where aging isn't something to fear. It's something to shape, together. Because aging doesn't mean fading away. It means knowing who you are. It means caring enough about yourself to say no when it's needed. And yes, when it counts. It means writing your own ending. One full of peace, laughter, and dignity. So here's my closing thought for you, friend. Don't let anyone, not even your own thoughts, tell you that your best days are behind you. Your best days are the ones where you feel alive, where you feel seen, where you feel proud of the choices you make. Not because they're perfect, but because they're yours. And those days can start now. Today. Not next month. Not when you feel better. Not when someone else finally gives you space. Right now. Take that first step. Change one word. Say one honest no. Make one new choice. Because you've spent a lifetime showing up for others. Now it's time to show up for yourself. Here's to living your best life, at any age. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.